Hello YouTubers, Joe Kersey here and Paul on Thanksgiving Day, Thursday, November 28th, 2013 at around, what is it, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Now Paul just got home from work. Now what is on this chair here is a thing he found. Did you find this in the trash?
No.
Oh, that's right. No, it was
in a supply room.
Yes, it was in some sort of supply room. Now start unpacking this for the viewers, because this was left. Well, it was left in a room, but one of the house cleaners had, just stuck it in a supply room, and apparently then Paul happened upon it here, a couple days later or something like that, and
a couple of weeks, because I got tired of looking at it.
Oh.
I took it out of the damn room.
Well, how long was this guy staying in the room? Well, we can talk about that later.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, so check this out. First of all, show all the features in this thing. This thing's got wheels on it.
I don't know what that's for.
I suppose something you want, anything you want. And then you got all sorts of stuff. Look at that.
Store stuff back here. Here's your...
Oh, no, this is the thing. This is the thing that, this is the real...
handle to drag it around with it.
And this amazes me that anybody would even need something like that. I mean, this isn't all that big an object here, guys. It's not like you're hauling a steamer trunk,
I know. I've seen them drag smaller stuff around.
Well, they just, Well, anyway, so they got that, and then you got all these little hidey holes inside here.
Down in here, you have a padded thing. To me, that would be the ideal place to chuck your...
Well, that's for your computer.
Laptop.
Yeah, for your computer.
But seeing on the new one, this whole thing, this unzips all the way down and around, It unzips like that. So you can get in there, like where all your extra pins and stuff goes.
Well, how many pens do you need?
Your car key clasp.
Now, show them why you think the guy discarded this thing.
Because here,
that's where the handle is.
Where the handle pulls out, the tab is gone, and that's the only reason he got rid of it.
Now, see, he could have just put a big old paper clip in that and use it as a handle, a zipper pull, and instead he tosses the whole thing out.
Right, went and got another one.
Well, he's either got more money and he knows what to do with it, or somebody else is paying stuff for him. Well, it's a little computer cozy.
Yeah, just lifts out.
So now today, when Paul worked today on Thanksgiving, and he got home, and apparently the plot is thickened somewhat in that he ascertained that there was a box that was clearly designed to replace this object that he found in the outside trash. Is that the case?
Yeah. And it shows that this thing here is supposed to be your quick and fast access to your laptops. This one.
Oh.
Because, like I said, on the new one, the zippers go all the way down the side and it'll actually open up. So you could actually stick a change of clothes in this part.
No.
Where this gray padded thing is that I would put the laptop in.
Well, or your sex toys, if you're going to go start getting on Craigslist at the hotel, or something like that. Yeah.
But this is supposed, and then in the new one, this is where you're supposed to have fast access to your laptop.
You maybe want to disinfect some of those other compartments. Well, that's very intriguing. That's very intriguing.
just weird.
Well, home safe. Good. Well, Paul's parking his little goodie down at the, under the table there.
Well, it's out of the way.
Well, that's good because, I mean...
You don't trip over.
Well, we're kind of big guys. We get thumping around here. We don't want to knock things around too terribly much. So, I've been having a lot of fun with my my poem that I posted earlier. I went to my website. I'm gonna knock this piece of dandruff off my camera. Okay. And I figured out I can actually just copy and paste this thing right into this, administrative, control. I guess they call it the dashboard page. And just put the poem up there. So I put my poem up there. Now I got, as you think about things more or less, over and over, right? It says here that the sun in this purported Highlands family's conundrum, he climbed the ladder and did it fast. He says she did not struggle too much at last. Well, I got thinking about that, and that's just not true. That's not how people die, if they're being smothered at the end. No, at the very end, that's when they're thrashing around the most, and that's when you've got to be sure you've got a good grip on them so that you don't lose hold.
Even an old grandmother?
Anybody, any living entity, and a human being in particular. Allow me to explain. Now, in my line of work, I'm still technically an anesthesiologist, but in my line of work, when I did anesthesia, I was often called to go up into situations where somebody was having a great deal of problem breathing, for whatever reason. The ones that actually had physical airway obstruction were the most dangerous and difficult and technically challenging. But most of them had to do with heart failure, intrinsic pulmonary disease, pulmonary edema, name your favorite variant thereof. And they weren't getting enough oxygen into their blood. Now, at that time we didn't have the pulse oximeter. It was just all blood gases, and plus you can tell if somebody's struggling to breathe. And you can tell if they're struggling to breathe because they can't ventilate. And you can tell if they're struggling to breathe if they can't oxygenate. But in either case, you're gonna intubate them and ventilate them mechanically. Well, it's always nice to be called a little early in those situations, but we never were. And of course, it's always around, 1 or 2 or 3 in the morning, when we're all going to wake up real fast and do that, aren't we? Or we've been up all day, and so you go hosing over there with your little toolbox full of stuff, your
box of tricks.
Well, yes, a box of tricks and laryngoscope blades and various sizes of tubes and things. And now, I had the good fortune to be trained by older guys that had grown up where if somebody needed to be tubed awake, without paralyzing them and putting them to sleep and paralyzing them, and then that's muscle relaxing. It's not paralyzing. And intubating them, there were various things that you did, and Well, you know, one approach, well, the most elegant approach was to do an awake nasal intubation. Well, you know, at that time we could use cocaine. You could cocaine in the nose, and that gave very dense anesthesia, and it shrank the mucosa so you wouldn't get bleeding, and it would drip down into the pharynx, and you just slide this tube down through their nose, and then you just have them breathe deeply, you know, and then they'd breathe the thing down into their larynx 90% of the time. And if they didn't, it would generally hang up anteriorly on either side of the larynx. In which case, then you just sort of, you know, you'd pull it back and you'd shift the axis of it a bit, and it would catch up sort of toward then in the top of the midline, and you'd flip that thing around, you'd twist it, and it would go right down in, and they'd cough, and you know, snot would blow out the tube, and you knew you were there, and blew up the balloon, and you'd ventilate it, and it was fine. Now, the other times, which generally had to do with their own intrinsic anatomy, was this thing keep going off to the side and going down into the esophagus. Now, in that case, then you got to get a little brutal. And what that means is you've got to stick a laryngoscope down into their mouth and pull their tongue sideways out, lift their head up on the laryngoscope blade, and stick the tube down in the hole. Now, the problem is that by that time, generally, they have so much upper airway and pharyngeal edema from just struggling to breathe that, you know, anything you look at looks like a red wall, just a red wall. I mean, there's almost no discernible anatomy that's visible. Now, you can, you know, I mean, you try to be humane about it. If you have time, you try to be humane about it. You know, you spray them up with local anesthetic or cocaine, ideally, but, you know, after they made it harder for us to get cocaine because the orderlies were stealing the cocaine off our backstand. Yeah, I mean, after they made it hard for us to get cocaine, you had to use other forms of local anesthetic, but, you know, and that's not as dense, and that's not as fast, and, you know, if somebody's smothering to death, you know, you don't really have all that much time. So, it really became an exercise in, you know, who's stronger now. Now, the guy trying to intubate somebody like that, if you have to use direct vision with the laryngoscope, you don't have the best visual advantage sometimes, most times. You know, you're usually leaning over the top on a stool, or you got your knees on the headboard or something like that. And if you're lucky, you've got a couple of people who are willing. You know, most people aren't willing, but, you know, occasionally you get a couple of people who are willing to hold down the arms of this individual, and maybe a third one to lay over their legs. Because essentially what you're going to do is you're going to do a controlled strangulation. And you stick the laryngoscope blade in there, you know, and let's assume we've been able to numb them up a bit. Now, you never paralyze these people. You never paralyze these people and stuck the tube in because, you know, first of all, you always try to do a little quick look first, just to see what you're up to. Most of the time, you're up against something you can't even see anything. So, if that's the case, you're not going to paralyze these people because, you know, at least they're breathing somewhat when you first came to them. But if you paralyze them and you can't get the tube in, then you've killed them. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to kill people. You're there to help people. Let me emphasize that again. You don't want to kill people. You're there to help people. So, typically, you know, sort of in the more or less worst case situation, you'd stick that radioscope in, and you'd kind of get their head hanging up on the blade, and they'd start thrashing around. So they start thrashing around, and as I, you know, so in my poem, when I said he climbed the ladder and did it fast, he says she did not struggle too much at last. That's just not true, because that would have been when she was thrashing around the absolute most. Because people who are being essentially smothered or strangled, they become incredibly strong. I mean, you know, if you've got somebody who's you know, getting ready to die on the end of your laryngoscope, you know, you want to hang on for dear life, because, you know, eventually you're going to see them take that last gasp. And when they take that last gasp, the bubbles come out, and you can see where the bubbles are, and you can stick that tube down in there. You've got your little stylet with a little J curve, and you can slide that thing right down into the spot where the bubbles are coming from, and you can get that thing in there, and then, you know, you stick that thing in, and then that very, 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 very last cough reflex in the trachea, you know, they generally will go, oh, and, you know, you feel the breath come out, and you know you're okay, and you blow the cuff up, and you can start ventilating these people. But, you know, it ain't pretty, guys, but sometimes it has to be done. Sometimes it just has to be done. So, I apologize for painting a bit of a golden aura a little in my Thanksgiving poem.
You didn't write the poem, you printed it off.
Well, I wrote it on a scrap paper yesterday, then I typed it in as a document.
Oh, so you did write the poem.
I've been very computerized. I've had a computer for a year now. I'm learning how to do things. Finally. So.
You got a lot of time to sit around and play on. I don't have to.
Yeah, I know. It's you know, it's shameful on my part. I knew this would happen. That's why I delayed getting involved in this stuff for as long as I did. Alrighty, guys. I think, you know, as an aside here, I think this is going to be the last one I do in high definition, because my camera only records for 10 minutes at a stretch in high definition, and then it shuts off. That's why I had to sort of go back and restate what I tried to state. So enjoy this while it lasts, because we're going to go back. We're going to go back to 480 here from 720.
This is high definition?
Yeah, this is 720 right now, but I'm going to go back to 480.
Flat.
Well, because I can record for a half hour at a time. Yeah. I wouldn't have to go through this, you know, I wouldn't be taken by surprise. Technology, huh? Alrighty now. Well and truly happy Thanksgiving, YouTubers. Any final words, Paul?
No. Stay warm.
Get Living Earth HD here. Isn't it fun? Isn't that pretty? Get Living Earth HD. It's great fun. Radiant Labs. It's cheap. It's only $7. Best $7 you'll ever spend. All right. Bye-bye now.